Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time to join the Direct Insight Corporation investor presentation. My name is Matthew Oakes. I'm the Chairman of the Board and the Chief Executive Officer, and today we'll be discussing why Direct Insight is a timely investment and some of the new things that are occurring with the business. I'd like to begin the presentation with a safe harbor statement. Without reading the entire statement, I will just say that some of the statements made in these materials may be forward-looking in nature. If you want to understand the risks associated with such statements, please review our filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission. First, who is Direct Insight? Direct Insight Corp., we provide cloud-based ERP-agnostic solutions that automate both the accounts payable or the accounts receivable invoice process. We have a blue-chip customer base. The list starts with IBM, goes through HP, Siemens, companies such as Saint-Gobain, Shell Oil, and Hyatt Hotels. We have a first-of-its-kind private label AR solution for banks, which we've just released publicly, and it's called Paybox. We have a best-in-class AP transformation solution for global enterprises with shared service centers. And where we differentiate is we're able to accept any invoice in any format from any source. We have no hardware or capital software expenses due to our cloud-based SaaS business model. We price our our pricing is transaction-based, and we are a recurring revenue model. We have a growing global network of 450,000 distinct suppliers, and we have a board, management, and associates squarely aligned with our shareholders. Our AP opportunity is very simple to discuss. We target market companies with large shared service centers, heavy invoice volume, that can have multiple legacy financial and ERP systems. In other words, companies that, such as Siemens or Saint-Gobain or B Aerospace, where they're doing acquisitions and divestitures. The companies that they buy and acquire and or sell have different ERP systems, but they're trying to keep everybody on one consolidated invoice platform. In the Global 3000 currently, only 40% of companies have implemented automation tools in this area. And even the largest companies with automation suffer from the multiple legacy ERP systems, inconsistent automation capabilities, and we think that that market is somewhat only between 10 and 20% penetrated. 90% of global companies manually enter invoice data, and they pay invoices still with $30 trillion worth of paper checks. Global regulation, anti-money laundering, and tax requirements are accelerating the move to electronic record keeping. So invoicing and all these different modules and tools are starting to move into the market. And as tax and additional regulation move to the U.S. market, starting with healthcare, incumbency is critical for long-term and significant growth. So the conclusion here is automation is not an if, it's a when. Who do you go ahead and choose when you look for a proven provider that's got a list of similar companies that are large enterprise that work in complex, difficult spaces, and we fit that model perfectly. AP solution modules will include anywhere from company profile vendor management, scan capture, and e-invoicing workflow processing, which is really kind of a procurement offering that trends right into shared services with your payments processing, your e-invoicing and workflow processing again, your network and participation, and your payment gateways. And then the treasury offering will include spend management, business intelligence, dynamic discount management, and supply chain financing. So our AP solution modules can enter at any one of 3 points of a large organization: procurement, shared services, or treasury, and we have offerings that are tailored for each. Where do we do business? We have an expansive global network. We do business with over 450,000 suppliers and customers, and we transact over $130 billion worth of invoicing annually. And we pretty much cover the globe. However, that is primarily in our AR space. Our AP automation is primarily located here in North America. I'm going to walk into one of the case studies. Our Siemens shared service case study is an appropriate case study to address as we look at AP. Siemens has a shared services environment for a global powerhouse company. They support more than 50 different Siemens business units, process over 2.4 million invoices a year from 60,000 suppliers, and they also have 5,000 internal users of the system. Their internal goals were to automate invoice processing, reduce inquiries from suppliers, improve relationships with their suppliers, and basically to save money. Their business results after 3 years are phenomenal. They reduced their average cost of invoice by approximately 24%. They receive 73 of their invoices electronically now. They have reduced workflow time from more than 4 days to less than 12 hours, and they've enhanced their supplier relationships by reducing their inquiries by 67%. The AR opportunity, the AR market here in the U.S., receivables management is a $1.3 trillion worldwide market. We think that there's 14 billion paper B2B invoices generated here in the U.S. annually. 60% of corporations are dissatisfied with their receivables and payments process, but 50% of the receivables post without human intervention. 75% of companies have too many receivables with incomplete or inaccurate data, and that same number of companies think that their receivables require way too much intervention, and then that is rising. So what is our AR solution module for that? We go right through procurement, shared services, and treasury again. We start with electronic invoice presentment. We offer invoice inquiry, invoice approval and workflow, electronic payments, and then again, dynamic discount or supply chain finance or payment reconciliation. Once again, an end-to-end solution, procurement, shared services, and treasury on the AR side. IBM is our case study. You can go to our website, www.directinsight.com. You'll see all the case studies that we list in this presentation. Very simply, we do the global invoicing for IBM, both internally with an offering called Customer Presentable Invoice, and then their global offering, which is called Invoices Online. The net after working with IBM for about 7 years is we've reduced their paper invoices by 75%. We've improved their staff efficiency and reduced disputes by 65%. We've significantly reduced their day sales outstanding, resulting in a $50 million increase in treasury cash available and a $4 million in annual savings in interest expense alone on those DSO funds. And we significantly changed the supplier relationship, changing the customer sat from 27% to 72% within 6 months of being implemented. So we are globally deployed with IBM as our largest AR customer. The bank market, where's Direct Insight heading? Why are we a great investment? Why do you look at this company now? We have decided, because we have both an AP and an AR offering, as we looked at accounts receivable processing and what we had deployed for IBM, that there was a market here in the United States that we had to get into a channel. And we look at our channels as some of the places we made some significant progress with our business. And so we started to take a look at banks. As we migrated IBM from the Cold Fusion application to the .NET layer, we started to look at what else we could do with that global invoicing application. We decided to partner with banks. We've signed a global 4-bank. And what we are doing is a white label offering by which the bank will offer transaction processing or accounts receivable processing on behalf of their largest customers. So the bank market, our target market is the top 100 U.S. banks. We're going to leverage the existing bank paper lockbox customers. Almost all of the top U.S. banks provide lockbox services. It's a $1 trillion business with fees, float, and deposits. And it is their second most lucrative bank treasury product offering behind lending. So if you think about the relationship and you step back, banks have a vested interest in retaining the relationship with their largest customers. 70% of large corporates use a lockbox. 35% of all businesses use a lockbox. And the percentage of an electronic or a lockbox user is growing. So what do banks need to do? Retain their largest customers, become more integrated with their financial departments, an electronic invoicing solution that guarantees that they distribute the invoice on behalf of their customer and in turn receive back the payments is a no-brainer for large banks. We're starting to see banks move into that. And so we want to be the white label provider or first mover into that. Almost all the top banks right now are investing into AR service offering. We can provide a global, robust invoicing product that's already deployed with language, text, all the calculations, and already in the application itself and deployed on behalf of the banks. Top lockbox priorities for 2014 are to rationalize payments infrastructure, improve bank integration for receivables and payables, enhance the client experience, improve sales, and also product P&L. And so our Paybox offering addresses the top bank lockbox priorities by replacing paper lockbox revenue, improving customer stickiness with our AR services. We increase operational efficiencies through the use of an electronic invoice file. We create new revenues through P-card utilization, and we provide downstream supply chain financing and AP opportunities on the backside of the AR opportunity. So what we're looking to build here is a closed loop system by which either through our own accounts receivable processing or that in partnership with one of the white label banks that we're utilizing, that we will send an invoice out, but then on the AP side, we will receive an invoice back in, creating a closed loop system and revenue opportunities on both sides of the invoicing equation, but then also addressing and looking at how can you go ahead and provide discount capture and or some kind of supply chain finance module where you can get an additional origination fee, a potential additional transaction fee, or some form of basis points, depending on how large the invoice, deeply you're integrated, and how often that system is used. AR opportunity, and I'll just talk a little bit more about them. The decline in B2B check volumes and the way they preserve their lockbox franchise. You'll see if you look at the investor presentation posted on our website that every year since 2006, paper lockbox and B2B check volumes are declining. And so this electronic version is a great way for banks to fight off PayPal or anyone else, any one of the other new trendy payment modules that are coming online, and go ahead and get back to that traditional, I sell you my service, you send me an electronic payment, and it goes right into the bank. So Paybox, electronic invoice presentment, adjustments, approvals, electronic payments, AR file delivery, and the downstream financing opportunities. That is our bank treasury services sale that we're positioning, and we're going out. Like we said, we've signed one large customer, one large global bank, one of the largest in the U.S., and we're continuing to roll that out and present that to other banks, see if they'll go ahead and implement that. Our competitive landscape on the AP side and the AR side, littered with a lot of different companies. A lot of them are still involved in the paper migration to electronic. We consider ourselves an electronic company. We partner both on the scan capture side with 2 or 3 very good scan capture partners, and on the back end of it from a financing side, we're also partnering for that activity as well. We sit squarely in the middle. We are a transaction processor. We take information, change the format in which it's presented, and deliver it, and then we process the payment coming back. Whether on the AP or the AR side, we consider ourselves to be high-tech, electronic-oriented, electronic delivery. Financial highlights of the company. Last year was a challenging year for this company. You'll see now, as we started to grow through some of the lost revenue from a major customer, that we continue to have a growing cash balance. We're continuing to have customer wins. We think we're positioned properly because we're in the electronic space. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. People are migrating away from paper. They're automating, getting rid of fraud. They're getting rid of errors. They're getting rid of human touches. So anything that automates, you only have to do once, and that's a repeatable process. So we feel we're positioned properly with a great list of existing customers. We have new customers that we're bringing online and implementing. And so our business model continues to vet itself, and we continue to grow the organization. Growth objectives and timeline. I have a 30% targeted growth rate for the business by 2015. In 2012, we invested in a direct sales force, building a sales culture. We standardized our product offerings, and we added some new customers. In this last 2 years, we've developed and introduced some new products to sell to our new and our existing base. We're leveraging our first mover status in the Paybox with the top 100 banks here in the U.S., and we're launching a formal channel program for our AR and AP solutions. In 2015, we look to create value from the network effect, from our valuable supplier network, as well as implement supply chain finance and some of the compliant management or spend management tools. And then we will continue to explore opportunistic acquisitions and do whatever we can to expand the vendor supplier network and grow our business. Why invest in Direct Insight now? Very simply, 8 bullets in the investment presentation. Recurring revenue, SaaS business model. First of its kind, private level AR solution for banks and Paybox. We trade a loyal multiple to our peers, but we have stronger core customers and offerings. We have several new products and functional extensions coming online to our existing product suite, which will go ahead and increase revenue on our existing customers. You're seeing big spending from venture-backed startups starting to evangelize and draw attention to this market. We will be the ones that are sitting there with a robust customer base already and the ability to deliver. We have a robust and growing vendor network and a plan to monetize that network. As I said, automation is a given. Financial supply chain will be automated. This is an opportunity to invest with a public company that you have visibility in, a committed management team, global 3,000 customer list, and revenue opportunities growing out of our core business as well as a new business that we're going after. This industry is fragmented and will continue to consolidate. It's an opportunity to own a benchmark company in a space today with a lot of upside tomorrow. If you talk about the financial highlights of the business, you have a business that does $10 million a year. You have a business that has no debt, about $2 million in working capital, a very focused management team, a very strong core group of associates, a great customer set, and an entire group. If you put all this together, it's a very investable story. And I'd be glad to go ahead and take any questions, or I want to thank everyone for taking time to participate in reviewing the investment presentation today. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're now live with our Q&A session with Direct Insight, ticker symbol DIRI on the OTCQB. And with us on the line today, we have Matthew Oakes, who is CEO of Direct Insight. Welcome, Matthew.
Hey, good afternoon, Paul. How are you?
Very good. We'll get started here with the questions. We have several that have come in already. Our first question, given the increase in move towards electronic systems, why do you think it's taking longer for companies to move away from paper checks?
Probably because it's the last thing they think about, to be honest with you. You automate those things that get you money faster. And, the movement away from paper checks is probably just the last thing. I mean, that people, they're concerned about getting electronic payments in. I think it's one of those, the last 15% or the last 10% of the automation. I do think you're seeing alternative payment methods bite into that a little bit. And so, a lot of people receive different payments in different ways now instead of checks. And so overall check volumes, I think, are going to decline. The question is going to be is what form do they decline and move to?
Okay, very good. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Our next question, what are the biggest growth areas for Direct Insight?
So, we've historically had great channel partners and done some big enterprise business, and we're kind of focused on that again. I think the AP automation suites and the working capital management solutions we're putting in place now, we're finally getting past the step of where we're doing the transformation, the automation. We're now able to realize and provide those customers with a working capital kind of solution set, how they use the tool to go ahead and impact their bottom line and their balance sheet. And so, on the AR side, we've got the Paybox, the bank offering that we released that, we're starting to get a lot of traction with and a ton of interest, which is really reverse electronic lockbox, which goes back to the paper check piece you were talking about with lockbox revenues declining for banks. So we think we have a play there as a white label solution with our largest customers on the invoicing and then receiving the payment side. I think there's real nice opportunity on the AP side as it relates to discount capture, supply chain finance as the kind of working capital solution that sits on top of the automation play. And then finally, our enterprise business and some of our integration business that we've done historically continues to grow, and we're seeing more opportunity there. Companies are deploying tools across their organizations now that provide these working capital solutions. And our tools sit right underneath that layer and provide that. So I see a lot of opportunity in the market right now. It's always, it's clouded and, everybody's scratching for the same dollar. But I think it depends on, who your reference customers are and how you're positioned and who you're deployed for. And, can you really be first mover? I think we are in a couple spaces, and the other spaces we do really well. So I see that as the drivers for us go forward.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, with some of your largest customers, do you handle all of their accounts receivable or accounts payable, or just a portion of receivables and payables?
Well, on the, and I can go through. My largest customer is IBM. We're their global invoicing solution. We do all of their electronic invoicing worldwide, and that's invoices online for IBM. And so, then, one of the next big customers is Carlson Wagonlit, and we do their AR, and we do that globally for them, right? And it's all electronic. On the AP side, we may do, AP is primarily here in North America, and we do North America operations for most of our customers, but they use different solutions around the world. There's no global solution for AP. There are platforms, and there are people who kind of position themselves that way, but normally, in the different geographies, the regulations and tax and requirements are a little bit different. So you'll see different solution providers on a lot of those AP, for those big AP companies. So we'll do it, in North America, we usually get all the volume. Whether you get it outside of North America is a separate issue.
Okay, thank you. And our next question is financially related. This investor is saying that revenues were rising rapidly in the second quarter of fiscal 13, but then declined in the third quarter of fiscal 13. What was the driver behind that?
In the earnings call that I've done, we talked about this a little bit. We had the outsourced contract for General Motors through our HP partnership. And when they ended their partnership with HP, we obviously did not have an opportunity to participate with them go forward. And so essentially we just had a major customer loss, and then we've tried to grow back through that revenue loss over the last year, and I think we're accomplishing that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And our next question, you already touched a little bit on this earlier, but do you think there are any barriers that could slow down the movement from paper checks to automation?
Well, look, everybody's trying to find a way to take a manual process and automate it, because once you automate them, you only have to do it once. And so I think it's the if you think about the people that you deal with in financial organizations, they're very conservative. They're paid not to make mistakes, and they want to make sure that this process is really going to work. So they're only automating and doing the massive change management in the places where they get the most return for their dollar. Like I said, I think automation is not an if, it's a when, and it's coming. And I think that comes out the back end of tax regulation and, fraud and a lot of things. So there's a lot of reasons to go to electronic. There's a lot of reasons to move off of what you're doing now. I think what will really drive it is going to be the working capital management play. because if you have a financial reason to do it, you'll find a reason to automate. And I think now that, things like discount capture, early payment discounts, when you automate that and take that out of a manual process, you're really providing real financial, tangible benefit to the organization. You're eliminating errors, you're eliminating human touches, and unfortunately that's just a reality of automation plays. But I think the financial drivers at the end of the day will win out. I think people will continue to migrate away, not just from paper checks, but paper invoices, inbound and outbound. And you're going to see it's not a green initiative anymore because that's played out, but it's going to be an efficiency and an efficiency and automation and accuracy and audit, and really at the end of the day it's going to be about money. And I think that's what's going to drive the change. And if you think about, and I don't want to dwell on this too long, but in Europe, electronic is mandated, right? They don't want to use paper. That regulation hasn't hit here in the United States. You'll see it in certain segments, probably starting with the government or local tax or local, state and local authorities, saying you've got to submit electronically. And you're starting to see a lot of corporations here in the U.S. do that. So, the matter of payment will go electronic. Because, just to be quite honest with you, it's not the 3 or 4 days in the float. You're waiting for that check to clear. So, the day you schedule the payment and send electronically, it hits, it's like a wire transfer. So I think those are the drivers that will change the behavior here in the United States as we go forward. And we feel we're very well positioned to leverage and take advantage of that.
Okay, thank you. And don't have any other questions that have come in. And we have several minutes remaining. I guess what would be the main takeaway you'd want to leave investors with about the Direct Insite story? You've already covered a lot of great stuff, but what's the main takeaway?
I think there's a couple things. I think when you look for a company that you can invest in, you assess risk. I think, we did have a large customer loss last year. I don't foresee that happening again anytime here in the near future. We're in the middle of renegotiating a lot of our existing deals. And so, sans some kind of seminal event, I think we have a very solid revenue base of existing customers and large enterprise customers with contracts that we're going to be there for quite a while. I think number two, you look for a company that's trying to develop innovative products and be first mover to go into an uncrowded space so they can penetrate and create revenue opportunities and expand. I think we've done that with Paybox with this white label banking opportunity. It's really kind of innovative and new. It's not a brand new technology, but it's a different way of looking at electronic invoicing and what the utilization of it's for. Because we cut our teeth with IBM and we know how to invoice on a large scale with tax in different countries and currencies and in a very robust and scalable environment in that SaaS kind of cloud, we're a very, I think, what I would consider to be a conservative good bet to be able to do that consistently right the first time and provide the working capital benefit back to the organization that implements it. So, from that Paybox offering and is new, and I think the third thing you look for is that where is there a company that has products that just not the automation and the transformation, because that's checks are better now. That's just it's a one-time event and then you get paid to process and it's good, but the prices, you're constantly fighting a declining price curve. So where are those offerings that not just have that baseline of transaction, but then layer something in on top of it? And so I think when we start to look at discount capture, dynamic discounting, or supply chain financing, and I mean discount capture for the company and then maybe supply chain financing for the vendor, nobody's really done it. Nobody's really got it and solved that. And there's a lot of players in that. And I think an integrated solution probably is something that is really better positioned. You don't want to have 4 or 5 people in the soup. And so I think, we've got an integrated solution on a pretty robust platform. And so I look at us from an investment standpoint. By the way, the majority of the shares are owned by the board and, some of the key management players, I think probably 50 to 55%. So we have a vested interest in the success and the growth of the business. Not happy where the share price is now at all. But, we're doing everything we can to go ahead and row faster. And I think, the balance of this year will continue to deploy some of the solutions that we have, and it'll really have a really nice financial impact in 2015. So very, very positive and looking forward in a positive way. I think we're in a great spot, and we'll continue to improve the business and grow.
Very good. Fantastic story that you have with Direct Insite here and things going on with the company. We were just speaking with Matthew Oakes, CEO of Direct Insite, the ticker symbol DIRI on the OTCQB. We're going to be going into our next presentation momentarily. We're going to be going on to the coin tree with Andrew Durgee. He'll be presenting for the company, and that'll be coming up here just in a few moments.